We're live. What's up, Kingdom of Rock? This is Matt Gibson, and we're here today after a short hiatus, trying to get a few COVID things and business things in line here. We've this is our first interview back after about a week and a half, Michael?
I think so. I kind of went into hibernation myself. So,
well, obviously, I'm here with Michael Molenda, my co-host, and he's up in the San Francisco Bay Area. How's the weather up there?
It is awesome, and I think we're on phase 2 of business opening up. So I might actually be able to go buy a greeting card sometime in the near future.
Oh, that's awesome. Gavin is allowing us to go outside. That's nice.
Yeah,
that's cool. So I'm down here in the southern part of California with our guest today, Petrie Hawkins Byrd. Many of you know him from the Judge Judy show as the bailiff that does crossword puzzles. How's it going today, brother?
Very good, very good. I'm on my third crossword puzzle. No, actually, I'm playing Scrabble against myself.
Oh, nice, man.
And so far, we're both losing.
Yeah. I gotta say, nobody passes a file over like you do. It's the most awesome thing ever.
Patented move. I'm just going to show it to you once.
That's patented. Okay. Yeah. See, that's
and it's no look. So it's,
yeah.
Is there a secret reason for that you can share with us? Or is that just
the no look pass?
Yeah.
That's from my basketball days. But
gotcha.
But
you don't want to telegraph.
I don't know what it is. I've known her. I've known the judge so many years, and I guess at a certain point, it's just like it's so automatic. It doesn't have to be. Funny. A little aside here. So. Lately, whenever my wife and I are having a drink and we toast, she goes, look in my eyes, and I'm always like, why? You don't trust me? You think I may break your glass when you're not looking? So it's like I don't get it. So I don't do a lot of eye contact because I think that people are trying to mind screw me.
You've patented the no-look toast as well as the no-look pass.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Times are tough, in the entertainment business. Maybe it's a good time for some no-look T-shirts, kind of get that, get a trademark and, start selling some merch.
That's right. That's right. A picture of you looking this way and underneath it says, no, I'm not looking at you. I'm not looking at you.
Exactly.
I'm not looking at you.
Well, so Byrd, obviously you're not a musician, correct? Or are you?
I am. Okay. I'm not a musician. Okay. All right. So people say, well, are you a writer? And you say, well, I've written. Nobody's read it. But I've written, so that's kind of where I'm at, my whole musicianship thing. I studied clarinet when I was in elementary and junior high school. I played the clarinet, but interesting aside, I am presently studying bass clarinet.
Oh, nice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's an unusual instrument. A lot of people, it's kind of a weird, like half saxophone, half clarinet almost, right?
Yeah. And the thing about it is, man, it's satisfying something that always gnawed at me. When I was in elementary school in 5th grade, I was in these so-called gifted classes, we're talking about public school back in New York City back in the day, so you were lucky if you got to study an instrument, mostly you studied, homicide, but my teacher, Mr. Tell, offered, was giving out instruments the first day, and so I'm waiting, man. I'm like jumping because I was a Kool and the Gang fanatic, man. I like Chicago and all that, so I dug horns, but I mean, horns. So I'm waiting for a sax. wait for like a trumpet or trombone,
Right.
And he hands me this licorice stick, and I'm like, huh? And mind you, I'm 6'3" now. So back then I was 6'4".
Yeah. That's like a cigar.
I was the tallest kid in the class, and he handed me a clarinet, and I was so pissed. I was like, "What? You're kidding me, man!"
At least it wasn't a flute.
I might have been able to deal with a flute, man, but the black licorice stick. You know why? Because in 3rd grade, we were all given what? Recorders, right?
Oh yeah.
The black
that's right.
recorder, which is the tiny licorice stick,
Right.
And so I didn't expect you to hand me that. I expect you to, I thought I graduated to something bright and shiny. And apparently that was not to be the case with me. So he gives it to me, and I'm PO'd, and he could tell that I'm pretty ticked off about it. And he comes over to me and he says, "So you're mad that I gave you the clarinet?" I said, yeah. There's a saxophone over there with my name on it. And he says, "Listen to me." He said, "If you learn to play the clarinet, you can play any of the woodwind instruments, including the flute and the oboe and the bassoon." And I was like, yeah, right. And I didn't trust that until I was fully grown and I had children of my own, and my son went to school and they gave him my saxophone. They gave him the saxophone, and he brought it home, and he had no interest in playing the saxophone whatsoever. However, Dad, put the mouthpiece on there and everything like that, and proceeded to play one of my favorite standards, "Twinkle Twinkle Little Star," or as you probably know it, the ABC song. And my son said, "Dad, you can play the saxophone?" I went, "Sure." You know why? Because I played the clarinet, son. So that's my elongated story about my history with the clarinet. But lately, I've seen several people, including Marcus Miller, tremendous bass player who's played with everybody on everything. He plays bass clarinet. And get this now, I went to what is it? I think it's Sam Ash. But the one on Sunset, right? And on Thursday nights they have jazz. They have these jazz ensembles come there and play. And I went there. A friend of mine invited me there, and I went there one night. And the guy was from Chicago. The lead player in this trio was from Chicago, and he was playing the bass clarinet. And I mean, he was great. He was fantastic. And I was like, damn, this is what I wanted. Guess whose brother this wound up being? Amy Schumer.
Oh, wow. Only in Los Angeles, right?
Yeah. And Amy Schumer had been to our show, right? She's a fan of our show.
Oh, that's great.
She had come to the show, and so I text her and a picture of me and her brother, and just to kind of test to make sure this guy wasn't just selling me a bill of goods.
Yeah.
And she texts me back. She goes, "Where did you run into that clown?" She said, and how did you like the bass clarinet? I went, "I love it." So I went online and ordered one for like $300, and it was worth every penny of $300.
Hey, yeah, that's awesome, dude. Hey, we have another guest coming into the live stream right now.
Really?
1 second.
Whoa.
Kevin Eubanks. How's it going, Kevin?
Man, you guys are there. Nice to see everybody.
What's up, dude?
Byrd is telling us about his awesome bass clarinet story.
Yeah.
Bass clarinet story.
Yeah, he's
might
gonna
be a new one.
No, I don't think Kevin knows it yet. But I was telling him, man, I bought a bass clarinet and I've been taking lessons, man.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful, man.
Which melds together my great clarinet skills with my desire to play the saxophone.
Bring it on over, man. Let's get in the studio, man.
There you go. There you go. I have to play like Miles, though. I have to stand with my back to you and then just hit one note and then turn around. You know?
Now, what I'm going to do for that one note, I'm going to put you through my old rat that was modified. It's got so much sustain and grit on it. We're going to plug you into that. It's beautiful sound, man.
And speaking for the 3 guitar players in this room, he's completely right, Byrd. You got to do that. It's going to be awesome.
All right. It's been memorialized. I got to do it. so this craziness is over.
If there's any possibility that anyone doesn't know who Kevin Eubanks is, I really can't imagine that possibility. But for those of you in Kingdom of Rock, if you don't know Kevin was the band leader for The Tonight Show back in the Jay Leno days and had a very long run with them. And Kevin is an amazing guitarist. And one of my friends, Dave Reffett, who's been a show guest, he said that, man, every time that you would cut loose on that show, it'd get him excited. He loves it.
Oh, that's cool, man. I had a great time doing all of that, man. It was really cool. I was so fortunate to be able to get in that situation.
Yeah, and it's like now that we're going through this COVID crisis and everything, I'm sure it's not like you have a regular gig that you go to every day. So are you a working musician now? Are you out there gigging and doing things? How has this kind of affected you? And like, what are you doing with yourself during the lockdowns?
Well, the real, I don't know, the thing that really touches me through everything is that I'm fortunate enough to be a musician for my career, for my lifestyle, for everything, which takes, musicians get to go everywhere, not just outside, but inside too. And since we're not going anywhere outside, at least we're not going too far, I'm taking this time to go further inside and find out what's there that sometimes you get distracted from. And you see the music outside, but sometimes you stop hearing the music inside. So no matter what happens, that's a good spot for me to, I don't know, get myself back together, see where I really am. Because sometimes you can get out there a little bit, as I'm sure everybody can relate to, and not really allow every external thing to get you to forget what's the internal things that are coming from your heart and your character. So no matter what happens, that's the place I'd love to carry around with me, and being a musician helps doing all of that.
Hey, Byrd, on that note, how do you kind of flex your muscles as an actor while you're sequestered at home?
It's odd. I have a lot of friends who are writers. Well, one, I'm writing, which is and actually putting down ideas that have kind of sat dormant inside of me. I totally relate to what Kevin's saying. You get so busy with life, that you don't take time for the introspection to look inside and see, what's hiding down there after all these years. So I've been doing some writing. The other thing is that I have some friends who want to do they want to do theater, but of course you can't gather together in the theater. And even if you gather together in the theater, you're not playing in front of an audience anymore. So they're trying stuff like what we're doing right now, which is, going online, and you can do readings, of works that, that people probably normally couldn't afford to mount these things. They'd have to find a theater and actors and pay this and lighting and all that kind of stuff. Well, now you sit at home and you read it, and we're going back to the days of radio, where everybody will be gathered in front of their computer or their phone and just looking and going, oh yeah, that would make a great movie. So until it can be made into a great movie, and I do a number of voices also. So that's what I'm trying to do is, break a little more into this voiceover situation and now I got as good a chance as anybody else, because, if they can't get Denzel, then that's all they have to do is call me and tell me that they need Denzel, and then I'll have to do the Denzel for them. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
I'll do the Denzel. Okay.
I got to
All
tell
right?
you,
Okay.
Byrd was doing a pretty awesome Sammy Davis Jr. off camera before the interview. I was like, Sammy?
That was you? That was you?
That was me.
That was
And a lot of cats dig it.
Well, now, Kevin, I'm not sure if you know Michael, but Michael was the editor of Guitar Player for the last 20 years.
Man, what a pleasure. What a pleasure,
Yeah,
man. I think we did a couple of cross things, maybe.
Yeah. I think we had. I think Jude Gold might have interviewed you.
Yes, Judy. Yes.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
true.
I didn't have the pleasure to talk to you myself back then, but Jude, is an awesome guitar player on his own, and he was really thrilled to have the chance to go in the studio and talk to you there.
Man, that's really great, and thank you for all your work for Guitar Player, because we all love seeing that on the cover of Guitar Player magazine. We love seeing that as guitarists.
Well, and on that note, just to get into guitar geekiness, since you mentioned going, inside and outside and exploring your own creativity that way, how are you relating to gear? Are you finding new tools and things that you want to explore? Are you staying with your same instruments, or how's that going?
The tools, other than the instrument, remain the same, and I've kind of learned how to get different sounds out of the same old things. Sometimes I like the older pedals because they have more grit to them, and depends on where you put them up in the line. All the geeky guitar stuff, and but it seems like the staple pedals that I use doesn't really change. And I try new stuff as it comes along, and little by little I go back to the old compressor, back to the old this, and it's a little bit noisy. They're maybe a little cleaned up now, but the heart in them seems to come out of it a little bit better. I always wind up going back to that. What I do change though is the instrument, and so I've designed an instrument that suits me perfectly for traveling, and that sounds wonderful. If it meets all my needs, I've tried it against the other guitars that I have. They're all custom-made guitars. They've got the same builder at this point, and I used to have the same builder, Abe Rivera, and so I've changed guitars. And I've been with this new series of guitars that I designed in development during this process. That sometimes you wonder, did I miss something? Is this really the one? So I've been recording with it, touring with it. It's held up. It feels good. And now I feel really comfortable with it. So sometimes you got to watch out because, being comfortable with something, you start thinking like, oh, that's the sound. Oh, but you've been listening to the rough mix for the last month. That's why it sounds like it's real. So you got to be careful. But right now I'm on that line using these guitars.
Well, what are some of the things that you personalized about that design? Because I mean, designing your own instrument must be awesome because you can I like my frets this way. I like my volume speakers this way.
Right.
What was the main thing that excited you about being able to dive into the design on your own?
The size of the guitar. That was the main thing, was to have the size at where I felt comfortable with it. Everybody else may not. And within that, right next door to the size of it, it has to sound great. So once these two things became the priority of it, then the builders that I was talking to about, I was turned down by three builders before I found someone to actually build the guitar, to engineer the guitar, and we worked on it very closely together. So it was really the size that came first, which doesn't mean anything if it doesn't sound the way that I need it to sound. And he changed a lot of things in it that I wasn't really aware of, but he did a great job on it, and I have to give him some credit, Jeff Scott, for helping me through some of the sticky points. Because you can design something, you can say, oh, I want this, I want that. Then an engineer actually has to make it happen, and then we figure things out. And he came up with some things I wouldn't have thought about. So it's nice to take that journey with the luthier and come out with something and you get it. So it really feels good, and I can travel with it really well. Too.
Are you going to try to make a guitar line with it? Maybe like sell it to the masses, or is it more just your personal instrument that you just wanted to make the way you wanted to?
First, that's all I wanted to do, was to just make something that was good for me. I had no intention to want to go into having a guitar and having production and going through all of that. I just wanted it for me. So I started playing it about 3 years ago, and so many people came up to me and wanted to try it. They had a lot of, things that they wanted to, get right with their own guitars. And they said, well, this solves that, and this solves that, and this solves that. How can I get one? I said, well, we can't yet because it's still just mine. I haven't released it yet, and everything that you have to do to get that going. But I did have some of them made so I can hand them out to different guitar players so they can play them and get their feedback from them and see what they thought. So then a couple of companies approached me about production, and I just wasn't ready for that yet because I wanted to make sure I had the guitar done. And I think the guitar is done now. I don't think there's any more iterations of the guitar that I need to deal with. So if that interest continues, then I will wind up going in production with it. And if not, I just want to play guitar and have an instrument that I'm in love with.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, hey, if you need more people to try the guitar out, just saying, me and Michael are here.
We'll
No.
be good, yeah.
that might be the case, man. that might be the case. It's a wonderful thing to do.
Hey, Byrd, when you talked about writing or
Yes.
exploring writing while you're in, while we're here being quarantined, I've been writing since I was probably, 10, and I'm still scared shitless about coming up with any kind of script. I just don't even know how to make that happen. What are some of the challenges you face when you're trying to come up with a show to pitch someone?
Well, for me, my strong suit is being able to express the whole idea, the macro idea. Now, when it comes down to the micros, the little things, I'm one of those people that I'm not really good at that, So I love to collaborate. I have a daughter who has a master's in something, but whatever that something is has to do with.
Well, that's a good thing to have, whatever it is.
Yeah, has to do.
Yeah.
Well, it has to do with writing and media and all that kind of stuff. And so she, while working on her master's, she discovered a real interest in script writing. So I'm like, okay, good, And so I'll tell her certain ideas that I have, and let her flesh them out, or give them that fine detailing, But usually what I can do, and I'm not doing it very well right now, but I can usually express myself extremely well and get people to understand, the big picture, if you will.
Also, I fear when you got something on the page and then it has to touch somebody when it's spoken. It's the same picture, with Kevin, when you're making demos and it's like, you're working in your house and then it's like, well, I don't know if I get on the bandstand, this is going to wow people or not. Is it that, that's the kind of thing that freaks me out. It's like, I can look at it and go, well, that sounds okay, but is it really going to translate okay when somebody speaks it,
Yeah.
Well, and what I like to do is play it, and if it really touches my soul, I don't have to deal with that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
In the situations where I do have to go, I don't know, maybe this won't wow them, maybe this won't, really carry. The fact that I question it makes me feel like maybe this isn't ready. But in some cases, musicians, I guess not just musicians, but everybody can second guess themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it may not turn you on to the level that you want to feel it, and everybody else just loves it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go, wow, I didn't expect that reaction. So sometimes we're a little bit too rough on ourselves, and that everybody doesn't have the same taste as we do, but the feeling that they get from it may not be what was intended, but something that was in it really touched people. And then you learn from the audience that open up a little bit. Maybe that was, it came out of you, so there's something in there that was speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody else heard it, and you're the last one to hear it. So we have to be open. At least I try to just stay a little bit more open to different ideas, even if they didn't knock my socks off. And then you play it live, and they go, "Man, what was that song?" And you go, "Wow, man!" Because there's one thing I used to do. Oh, I still do it. Not today, of course, but I ask people, "What do you hear when you listen to music?" Just strangers in a park, in a store, in a mall, any place. Say, what do you, and they say, well, what do you mean? What? I said, no, literally, describe it in words. And they say, oh, the lyrics and the beat. What about the harmony, the melody, the piano, the guitar, this and that? And they go, if the lyrics are good and the beat is good. So sometimes we're listening for things that people, they don't see it on the same scale as we do. Because we're in there, we're engineering the music, and I just want to touch the button and the program changes. I don't really care what happens after I hit the button. Mm-hmm. Somebody else did that, and I think a lot of people listen to music the same way. When you guys are musicians, you figure out this and that. I just want to hear it and feel good about it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, awesome.
And I should say here that when he does that, when he goes to these different people out in the park and in the malls and stuff like that, it's usually when I go and bail him out that he finds out exactly what they thought.
See, we weren't supposed to bring that up, but
I know.
Judge,
Your Honor. No, he's okay. He was just asking.
Judge, could you come here for a second? I could use your help.
Well, I know Kevin is kind of limited on time today, and you're welcome to stay the whole show. We're probably going to go for about another 20 minutes or so. But I wanted to, give you the last question as far as, projects that you're working on and things, that creative products that you're putting out. And you talked about your guitar line and everything. Mm-hmm. So what are you, what's next for Kevin Eubanks out there in the world of music and creativity?
I'm working on a record. Actually, we've already done the recording, and it was due to come out in October. Probably won't come out in October, like a lot of things that people have lined up, with a pianist named Orrin Evans. And it's just a duo recording. We've done a lot of gigs. We're getting more and more into it. And we've actually been surprised at how far we can go, because we both grew up listening to a lot of different types of music. A lot of us listen to Jimmy, my man Jimmy.
I love that. That's cool. I've been looking for an awesome Hendrix art piece, man.
Is that cool? Check it out.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
And so I grew up listening to Jimmy, but I listen to a lot of people. Terry Kath from Chicago, Grand Funk Railroad, all kinds of people. Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Ma Vishnu Orchestra, Zappa, blah, blah. I grew up playing a lot of that stuff, and playing funk music too and everything. But, a lot of rock things really turned me on, because the guitar was always there.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to deal with some other things, so I got more and more into jazz, where the guitar was mostly in the background. And I said, well, we're going to have to do something about this. So this is not going to work. We can play melodies too, and we can play all.
Push your way to the front.
So I started transcribing Oscar Peterson and Cannonball Adderley and Freddie Hubbard and all those people until I started meeting certain people and going to New York and all that. So we have quite a variety of places that we can bring the music out of. So that's the one I'm concentrating on now. But there's always other things. I'm writing stories for paintings. Watercolor painter that is starting his exhibition season. He's getting that lined up. And I started writing stories for the pictures that he painted, and he loved them. Short stories that go with them. And so I'm going to, as far as he wants to, we've been developing that more, which is something that I never thought of. It just happened because he's a friend of mine. And I said, oh man, I was just looking at your painting, and I started writing a short story for it. If I wasn't a musician, I would be a writer. So things like that just keep coming up. And a lot of the things that I've been doing, being at home, has been doing virtual benefit concerts for a few different sources, which is really fun too, to come up with a set in your house. And, so, I mean, being a student of music and a fan of music touches it's like a backstage pass to everything. You get so much out of it. I mean, you're writing, so you probably can be a writer. You probably can do, you just see things in a different way. So I feel blessed for being around so many great musicians and being inspired by everybody. And I want to thank all of you for doing what you're doing. Without you doing what you're doing, helping the word get out on music and allowing musicians to be seen, we're not just musicians. We have brains too. We think through things. We travel more than most people travel, different parts of the world. So we see a lot of things, and we start at a young age. So we start appreciating something very seriously at a very young age. So I'd like more of this kind of situation that you're doing, because it allows musicians to talk about other things, not just about music. So people can see us as from an intellectual point of view as well, and the fact that we're so well traveled and we work with new people all the time. You get together with people, you get along with people, you learn from people, you learn other people's music, you share things. Music is a wonderful thing, and sometimes we just get taken for granted as, oh, they just play music and that's what they do. They get to be musicians, so they don't have to be responsible. What? Try doing that, see how far, So I want to thank you guys for what you do too. That's a wonderful thing, and we do need it.
Well, thanks. It's been great to have the level of musicians and actors and business people on the show, because it is interesting to get into everybody's head, because you're right. We're never just the cat or kitten with the guitar, or the person on screen, or the person fixing your automobile. There's always a bigger story, and it's been great to have all you guys, all you artists share your stories with the community.
You're so right. You're so right. There's a story within everyone. So I just stay open-minded and be thankful for when that happens, and I'm aware of it. It's a blessing.
Are you going to let Boyd's daughter edit your pieces for the artwork?
You
I might have to do that. He might be getting a phone call.
She can use the work. She can use the work.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to leave everyone.
Oh, that's okay.
Get going, and I appreciate the time. And again, thanks for what you do. And Byrd, we'll talk.
And if you need a bass clarinetist, now you know where you can get one.
All right. There you go. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. All right. Take care now. All right. Bye-bye.
So are you actually going to put your bass clarinet through a rat fuzz pedal?
Listen. I'm lucky to get any sounds out of that at all. So my instructor several times has had this look on his face.
Yeah.
Like what note is that?
Like, this is a clarinet, not a duck, sir.
That's right.
Right. I started on saxophone, actually. It's a little bit of I'm not trying to brag, but I did start on saxophone, and then they put me on tuba.
Oh, wow.
So Yeah, I was the only. I went from alto to tenor to baritone sax, and then I learned bass clef. I made the mistake of learning bass clef, and so I was the only one in the band that could read bass clef, and they needed a tuba player. So they made me learn tuba.
you just got deeper and deeper and deeper.
That's when I was like, forget this mess. I'm gonna go be a metal guitarist.
But even back then, I mean, I know, Byrd's story about being handed the clarinet is tragic, and I was sorry to hear the effect that had on your life. But it's also.
I could have been somebody. I could have been a contender. I could have been somebody.
Sorry about that. But wasn't it awesome though that in our era that we could walk into school and actually be handed an instrument? Because now parents have to rent them themselves, and I sadly I started out on violin, which I did not want to do as well, but at least it was given to me, and it allowed me to learn how to read music and all that. Even though I dropped that sucker as fast as I could, and I got off.
Look, I'll tell you a real interesting story. You know who Cynthia Robinson is?
I don't think so.
She was the trumpet player for Sly and the Family Stone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So when you hear him on a Sly and the Family Stone song, Dance to the Music or something, they call Cynthia. That's the Cynthia they're talking about. Well, her story was that she grew up in the Sacramento area, and she said that there was a little girl that used to walk by her house all the time, and she had a violin case, right? And her and the little girl, they struck up a friendship, and all she knew was that she wanted to go and study the violin. So they went to school together. She goes to the music department or goes to the music teacher and says that she wants to study the violin. They give her the violin. She goes home. Maybe 2 or 3 days into playing this thing, she goes, I can't play this thing. My fingers all knotted up. I can't control this thing. So she takes it back, and the same music instructor looked at her and said, well, I just gave it to you because I wanted you to try it out. You had such an interest in music. He said, but I never figured you for a violin player. So he said, but I have another instrument I want you to try, and maybe you'll like that. And so he gave her a trumpet, and that was it. She said she took to that like a duck to water, and became like the trumpet player in a band that that historical at best. I mean, phenomenal. I was so blessed to be able to have her tell me that story, because we became friends in the latter part of her life, like when she was in her 70s, and I just thought I would take her around the schools and just have her talk to kids about fulfilling their dreams and about trying things out, and you're right, Mike, that we lived in a day in an era where you could try that out, and you could figure out for yourself whether or not that was something that really struck your fancy and that would really stick. Well,
let me ask you this, Byrd. Speaking of like trying your fancy at something, how did you get into your career as a bailiff on the Judge Judy show? Like that's a really cool career path, an unexpected career path, probably. How did that work out?
Reader's Digest. I was a bailiff in New York. We called them court officers back there, and that was 1985 to 1990. Yeah. In 1990, I left New York and moved to San Mateo. And
right down the street from me.
Right down the street from you, man. Matter of fact, Foster City was where I came when I came out here, and I knew judges and stuff from back in the day. Well, I left law enforcement. I was working down in Santa Clara as a student conduct liaison at a high school there. And one day I'm reading the San Jose Mercury News, and I used to always read Liz Smith's gossip column because she would talk about what was going on in New York, you know, on the Broadway scene and different stars and stuff like that. And one day I read about this judge that I know. I read about Judge Judy Shineland, and that they were developing a TV show for her, you know, and so I got so excited about it that I wrote her a letter. Now, this goes to show how long ago it was. I wrote her a letter,
like
handwritten letter, actual letter, and because I didn't want it to take too much time getting to her, and because I was too lazy to go and find a stamp working at the school, I faxed the letter off to her in New York. And the letter was just, hey, God bless you. I hope things work out. It couldn't happen to a more deserving person. P.S. If you ever need a bailiff, I still look good in uniform. 3 weeks later, no lie, I get a phone call at my job. She had gone to my former coworkers in New York, gotten my number, my home number, called my home. My wife gave her my job number, and she called me at work and thanked me for the letter and said, "You were kidding around in your letter, but we do need a bailiff." And we tried it with a regular actor, and it didn't work out too well. You know, it's an unscripted show, and you know, she said, "And as I remember, you're kind of crazy." I said, "Well, I'm still kind of crazy." She said, "Well, if you're crazy enough to try this with me, I'll recommend you for the job." And this was sight unseen. I could have been 500 pounds, you know, but she did. She told me where to send the letter and a picture and all of that, and I did that. And like 6 months after that phone call, they flew me down to Southern California and interviewed me and told me that day I had the job. And I was like, okay.
Wow.
I said, okay, this ought to be good for a year or two.
Yeah, a year or two.
Yeah.
How long has it been?
24 years later.
Wow.
Yeah.
That must have taken a little bit of guts to go, yeah, I'm going to leave this job I have to do this unknown thing, whether it's a year or, I mean, that's kind of nutty.
Well, my mama ain't raised no fools. I took a leave of absence. I was like, nah, this seems too good to be true. And if it is, then I'm in trouble. So I took a leave of absence. And by the time I went back to the school, right, the show had premiered. And now I was the big man on campus. I mean, like, parents were bringing their kids to me, and, you know, just like, Mr. Byrd, tell them what Judge Judy would say. And I'm like, you know, so all of a sudden, man, I was internationally known in a very short time. I was on the most popular TV show, daytime or night, really. And it wasn't until the following year I was told by the school that I was out of time, that I could no longer take leaves of absence. So I had to do what my pastor once said. I had to lose sight of the shore so that I could discover new oceans, and that's exactly what happened, man. You know, by the time I pushed off, I mean, I was scared to death to put down. I remember the first time I put down on an application that I was an actor. I was, you know, of course it wasn't when I was buying my home. They tell you never tell them you're an actor or a musician when you're purchasing something.
Yeah. They'd be like, oh, they might not have money tomorrow, which a lot of people are struggling with right now. How is that affecting the, we talk to a lot of musicians, you know, how's that affecting the Hollywood side of things?
Man, well, you know, everything is shut down naturally. You know, now people are still optimistic and still keeping hope alive. And, you know, actors I know are still auditioning for roles, and, you know, the contracts are still open. You know, right now, everybody is what they call furloughed, you know, and, including myself and my wife, who is also a producer on our show. So we're both out of work from the same company, but it's just crazy, man. This is nothing like. I'm 62. I've never experienced anything like this in my life, and anybody who says they've experienced this before must have lived like back in 1918 when they had the Spanish flu pandemic. But man, it's crazy. It remains to be seen exactly what's going to happen. But an unseen enemy, you experience a hurricane, you know it's coming, an earthquake, you don't know when it's coming, but you experience it. It lasts a short time, and things get shifted, and you rebuild, and you do what you have to do. Tornadoes, they're coming. Wars, you have a general idea of who the enemy is. COVID-19, you can't tell me what it looks like, Yeah. And the only thing you can tell me is that either there's somebody who's sick, who got past it and got well, or there's somebody who didn't get past it and they are very dead very quickly.
Yeah.
But it's man, if ever there was a time to pray, this is it. You're gonna have to use sort of an unseen an unseen weapon against an unseen enemy,
And it's going to affect the bottom line for a lot of these businesses, especially in entertainment. Entertainment is getting hammered right now. A lot of people may not even come back to it,
But I can I tell you one thing that I kind of think about the entertainment industry and sports and stuff like that. I'm hoping that people will readjust the importance of these things. Teachers getting lousy salaries, overworked, essential workers. All of a sudden now, the person that's serving you in the restaurant is an essential worker, and the person working in the factory is an essential worker, and the nurses and the teachers and all, they're essential workers. Well, they always were, and I think that somewhere along the line we kind of got it twisted, in the whole thing, that these folks who make music and who make movies and who spout poetry and all that kind of stuff, that they were to be elevated to a much higher level than everybody else, and they were far more deserving than other people of all of the resources that were at their command and all the perks they were given. And it's like, no. I had always maintained that my son's teacher was far more deserving of his or her salary than I was what I was making, for standing there and handing Judge Judy papers,
without even looking. The no look pass. I mean, I was glad to be able to develop that and to give that to mankind, but I don't think it matches up to my son's teacher, giving him a fighting chance at becoming something in this world, right,
something lasting, for every Martin Luther King, there was a Martin Luther King's teacher, and so I can't say enough about the first responders and the essential workers and stuff, man, out there. God bless them, give them everything they need, and please, when this thing passes, and this too shall pass, let's not forget, who actually kept us alive out there and kept us moving and shaking,
Yeah, I hope you're right about that. And I'm not, I don't know where I sit on the line at fate or faith or whatever, but it's almost like, like you said, we've turned everything upside down. Whether you go to church or try to be a good person or whatever, a lot of people still aren't looking at these people who are essential workers now as valuable, like
right.
Beyonce is probably more valuable, or Bono is probably more valuable than the person cooking your food.
Right.
And it's almost like fate came down and said, you know what? We're just going to mess you guys up. So like, you can't turn away from it,
That's it.
right
Yeah.
now. Oh, and by the way, doesn't matter how rich you are or how famous you are, this thing can kill you.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Well, the old saying is, he who dies with the most toys is still dead.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but I hope you're right about that. I hope we start to appreciate everyone, because everyone, in the fabric of society, we do need everyone,
Yeah. And it becomes more apparent now than ever, man. And I just I look at the grocery store clerk, or the baggers, or the they did a story on one woman who is she works for a janitorial service, and she's cleaning out these buildings, and she was just showing the ritual that she had to go through every day, coming in, covering up as much as she could, cleaning out these bathrooms so that they would be usable, for people who were going into the buildings or whatever the case may be. And then, at night, when she finishes her work, she has to take off her clothes, there at the job, take off that stuff. And then when she gets home, she says that she goes, she doesn't go and greet her kids or her husband or whatever. She goes straight into the laundry room. She takes off everything. She puts it in the washing machine, and she's got to wash it at night. And then she's got to go and shower, and she does all of that. And then she approaches her kids, and you say, oh my God, and to think that there are some people collecting more, per week in unemployment, or they're getting stimulus checks, and she's still working for, peanuts, and going in there, and taking a life in her hands, literally, so.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, I think I hope we'll come out of this a kinder nation than coming into this situation. I hope that despite our differences, and despite who we want to see in the White House, or or who we don't want to change in the White House, whatever that may be, despite those differences, I hope that we can remember to just be kind to one another, man. That doesn't take a whole lot, It really doesn't, and to see people. I got to ask you something though, man. So how crazy is it? I'm sorry, but how crazy is it for people to want to fight to get on the beach?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nutty. I mean, you used to live in this, Foster City, San Mateo, San Francisco.
Yeah.
So, there are. I'm not bagging on them or criticizing them, but there's some affluent people here who are, feel that they're entitled to certain things. And I mean, I only go out to walk my dogs, and there's people now, because I guess they're children. Now we don't, the children need to play. And so there's these driveway parties where scads of kids are just interacting together, and the parents are allegedly putting their chairs 6 feet away, but there's a lot of cross contamination going on, and it's just like, and it's so funny because I'll see. I mean, this is going to sound like it's going out, but I'll bring it back. But I love House Hunters International, and it always cracks me up when the Americans go to France with their kids, and oh, this apartment isn't very child friendly, and of course the French real estate agent is like, what is the matter with you? Just tell them not to.
Stupid American.
Don't jump off the ledge.
Right. You see that balcony? Stay
exactly.
off of there.
Don't jump off. But we have that level of paranoia and care about our children. However, right now it's okay to possibly expose them to this disease just because you're worried about them not playing with their friends. I don't.
Look, we can't in California. You have to eat organic peanut butter, and that's just the way it is, because I don't know. It's just one thing I
Is
don't
that
want
peanut butter made from? Is that peanut butter made from organs?
Yeah, right. I just, it's funny. California, I mean, everybody's uptight though. I mean, I don't mean to be like to blow that off, but at the same time, people are uptight, they're stressed out in their homes, and it's kind of like I empathize with that a little bit, but I also like, what level is it selfish versus, like trying to like, I don't know. It seems like California, there's a little more of that than in the rest of the world. I just moved here, so that's just my opinion.
I guess you make your own decision, but I agree with Byrd. It's like the people that are trying to get on the beaches, and it's just kind of like, I just watched something, I think it was on the Today Show this morning, where they had 4 doctors in New York who worked in the emergency room. And I mean, it was just gut wrenching, because there's this one doctor who says, I'm the guy that, incubates you, put you on a breathing system. Once I do that, it's kind of an end of life discussion we're having, because there's a 20% chance you're going to make it out of that. I mean, it's just wrenching. And, and yes, more people are going to come out of this well than sick or dead. I get it. But the risk to everyone, the possibility of getting sick, I mean, it's frightening to me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, and it's science. It's not fantasy. This is happening, and every day people are still getting sick. So,
Yeah,
it's just amazing to me that some people will go, I'd rather go play bocce ball with my buddies than worry about whether my kids get sick or not, or my elderly parents,
I'm just happy to be able to see the beach new to California. So that's, to me, that's exciting. I don't have to be there. I'm like, man, I can see the beach. That's cool.
I'm from the East Coast, man. I didn't know what it was like to stand on a nice, clean beach in the United States until I came out to California. I was like, whoa, this is different, man. No syringes.
But it's so cold. The water's so cold here.
You lived around all those canals in Foster City too. You must have loved that.
Oh man, yeah. All that man-made stuff, though. But I loved it, because we were in an apartment in Foster City, and but I remember, spending the summers, because I worked for the school system at that point. I had summers off, and so I got to spend a lot of time with my kids. And so, walking around Foster City and going and feeding the ducks, that were in the little lagoons over there and everything. It was fabulous living there, and then just to go, on Highway 92 and go over to the Pacific Ocean, to go down by Half Moon Bay, and just, oh boy, I just remember driving on the freeways in the Bay Area, and I remember one time my mother, who was born and raised in Brooklyn, I remember she came out to visit us one time, and I took her down to Pier 39, and and did all the stuff, the cable car, and the Lombard Street and all of that, and then we were driving back, and I decided to take Highway 1 coming back down to Half Moon Bay, and then cut over. And as we were going down Highway 1, I just remember my mother kept looking out the window. She kept putting her head out the window as if she couldn't believe what she was seeing, and I don't care what anybody says. The coastline of California is unmatched, man. It is.
I just did a drive, my first drive up PCH, going up the coast and all the way past Malibu up to Oxford. It is so beautiful. Yeah. It's unbelievable. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, it makes you appreciate things, not being able to, go out like you want to.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're getting to the top of the hour here, and I want to wrap up, but I wanted to give everybody a chance to say one last thing. We'll start with Michael, and we'll give Byrd the last word here. Byrd is the word.
Just thanks so much for being on the show, Byrd. It was really interesting talking to you. I know you say that Judge Judy's got her way of doing things. I don't know if she's going to dig going back to the show, having to wear masks and have the jury box.
Oh yeah,
it's going to be
what they'll have to do there.
interesting how you guys come back to that. But my only recommendation to you is don't put the clarinet into a rat pedal. That's all I got to say.
As a metal guy, I would suggest that you do that highly. I think you should take Kevin's advice, but that's just me.
Well, maybe an overdrive, maybe not a rat, but experiment with it, see what you like.
You know, I think he was setting me up, but
Yeah.
I think I just want to say this before we leave. Whoa, mercy, mercy me. All things ain't what they used to be. No, no. Where did all the blue skies go? Poison is the wind that blows from the north and south and east. Oh, mercy, mercy me. All things ain't what they used to be. What about this overcrowded land? How much more of abuse from man can she stand? That was it.
That was beautiful. And you said you weren't a musician. Come on, brother.
Yeah, I didn't mention my original instrument.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you, Byrd, for being on the show, and I wanted to give a shout out to my mom and dad, Rocky and Kay Gibson. They are huge fans of the show.
Yeah.
My father, Rocky, is a Vietnam veteran. He watches you guys every day, and he loves the show.
And I just want to say to your father, hey, I love you, man. Absolutely. You know, hey, Rocky, I'm telling you, they're just you and Adrian. This is all. No, man, what great names.
I know.
I love those names, man. Rocky Gibson.
Yeah, he's definitely he's from the John Wayne school of toughness back, from the Vietnam veteran era, and where it's just that certain breed of toughness. My dad is, and he's a great man. Right. He's taught me a lot.
I'll tell you right now, COVID, you better get out of here.
Ooh, that's a good John Wayne. I like that. Well, on that note, Byrd, we're gonna wrap up today. Yeah, it was great to have you on, and definitely welcome back anytime. And if you need an extra sidekick bailiff, I'll write you a letter. I am available.
That's the new show, the sidekick and the judge.
Yeah. I can do the I can kind of, like, as you pass without looking, I can kind of pass it a little further, so that it's not so hard. You can keep doing the crossword puzzles.
That's it. Never drop the crossword puzzle.
Yeah.
or the soap.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
Good advice.
All right,
guys.
Rock out.
Thank you so much.